an extraordinary suite of presentations. And I know how late it is, so I think what I'd like to do is first ask Mary Evelyn and Sylvia if they have questions of each other. There were such evocative speeches and photos. And then I'll have a question or two to ask them. And then I'd like to conclude by reading back a few of what I felt were the most poignant and riveting expressions that I heard this evening as a way for us to all go into the evening. So, Mary Evelyn, is there something that you would like to ask Sylvia?
Well, we talked earlier about your feeling of optimism and how important that is. So maybe you could just elaborate that a little bit more, seeing what you have seen, but how you have a sense of hope for the future.
I think the main reason for hope, well, let me quote Jane Goodall, who says that she has basically 4 reasons for hope. And I share those reasons. The human mind is one. We have the capacity to, work our way out of some of these issues because we have the ability to see and to know. And it's that knowing that sets us somewhat apart. The way we can know on a comprehensive scale to see the whole world and our place in it. I am so impressed with the intelligence and even this apparent sense of humor in some other creatures. But we have an edge. The other is the human spirit. It's apart from knowing. It's also, the drive. We can do something or not. And so the human mind, the human spirit, the resilience of nature, that is a miraculous truth that with all the problems, nature can recover if we don't go too far. The Gulf of Mexico once had a beautiful little animal called a monk seal that was unique to the Gulf and Caribbean. It used to go as far north as Galveston, Texas. The last one was seen in 1952. No hope anymore for the Caribbean, Gulf of Mexico monk seal. They're gone. But the grouper aren't gone. They're still there. The dolphins, the whale sharks, they're still there. The ingredients, the manatees are still there, very depressed numbers. But if we give them a chance, recovery can take place. But Jane's 4th reason is mine too. It's the kids. It's that sense of hope that you see in every kid. They don't know what's not possible. And so the impossible gets done. It's, we can turn this around. Those who say, and some of my learned colleagues who think they really have a grip on how the world works, they just say, it's over. There's nothing we can do. The tipping points have tipped. It doesn't matter what we do. There's no hope for us. We're done. And I say, well, we are done if you say so and you give up, but we're not if we don't. I mean, we can't go back, but we can certainly make things better than if we never try. So I'm for trying, and I know. I mean, for every naysayer, there's a yes-sayer, and I'm with the yes ones. We have to be. We have to make things better than they are. And I have a question for you. When are we going to go diving? I mean, you have to come out and see the world from the inside out.
Yes. Yeah.
You see so thoughtfully through the whole relationship that we have with nature. What do you see as the way forward? What gives you hope?
Well, people like you, obviously, and like Mitch, my diving experience is limited to not limited to, but blessed by the Great Barrier Reef, which was absolutely extraordinary to me. But I do think that there's hope in the next generation, and I think there's hope in this sense that we all feel the livingness of nature, and that what we're about is creating an ecological culture that will support life of the planet. That's the missing link, I think.
So I want to also go back into the past as you did. I was born in 1950, and a year or two later was the middle of the McCarthy era in American history, a very dark time, and above-ground testing of nuclear weapons was carried on rampantly around the globe. It was a very dark time. And at that time, Rachel Carson, who you referred to, wrote The Sea Around Us. The Sea Around Us was on bestseller lists of the New York Times for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. So here we are 50 years later, and how do we craft a similar message that gets on the bestseller lists, that inspires wonder, that inspires hope, that educates the public around these challenging and daunting questions?
I'd love to have the answer to that question. Well, I think actually the answer may be not in the traditional means of communicating. I think one of the miracles and one of the causes for hope is the new forms of communication. I mean, I asked when I started, what were you doing 5 years ago? You weren't Facebooking. But many people are today. Were you Twittering? No. 5 years ago? No. But what will it be 5 years from now? How will we use these new means of connecting ourselves to the issues and use it to advantage, to quickly respond? I suspect that, well, I'm not alone in this, but it seems that part of the reason that it was possible for the breakdown of the Soviet Union was the capacity somehow for people to talk across the Iron Curtain, to really communicate. And so from within, this revolution took place because people there knew there was life didn't have to be the way it was. It could change for the
So
better.
the instantaneity of communication
Yes,
may be a tool that we can use to great advantage.
absolutely. Yes.
And I think as well, this kind of dialogue between science and religion, is critical to a future that says, obviously this is a shared future very deeply, but that we get a sense of a new language of the human spirit that
Agreed.
will carry us forward. And whether it's this journey of the universe on your list or not, I do feel that the sciences have given us, over the last 150 years, since Darwin's revolution, a sense of, from the astronomy of the early universe through every phase of evolution, we have a story. And this is emerging in many different areas. There's a project that National Geographic is planning on this. Yeah, that has Hollywood support, that has Brad Pitt as narrator, that has IMAX theater potential, and so on. This is present among us, a sense that we're part of a huge narrative. And that narrative is something that can carry us through, I think, into a future that's not only possible, but flourishing. And we've got to see this sense, we're not just sustaining life, because as you say, life will go on. We're trying to create the well-being for the Earth community as a whole.
And one thing, we humans do love ourselves. We are so wrapped up in how wonderful we are, we forget that we're only here by the grace of the rest of life on Earth. That they're not just commodities to be used at our whim, but rather to be respected and treated with dignity. If we can begin to treat wild creatures and the planet with dignity and respect, we might actually get around to treating one another with the same attitude. It's all ties together.
Yes.
When you look at places in the world where there's distress, war, poverty, it's connected to where's the water, where's the food, where's a place to live, what kind of future do I have? The places that are stressed with despair are rarely in places where there's a healthy environment.
Absolutely. And that deep connection, I mean, Africa is rampant with this kind of exhaustion of the soil and so on. But I feel the hope too, because people like you and Jane Goodall, I think, have given that kinship sensibility life for all of us, and that we're in a moment when the extension of compassion and care to the great community of life is not only our challenge, it's where we are. And by doing that, it gives us energy to sustain the work that is at hand. But it's a fantastic moment to say that all the community of life is part of the compassion of the human. It's a magnificent extension of why we are here.
Right. I totally agree that it's a continuum. It's not science here, religion there. It's a merger. I mean, it really is. Just the same is true with the environment and the economy. Some say it's over here and here. No, a sound economy requires a sound economy. A sound economy requires a sound environment. It's impossible to imagine a world just based on facts and figures, cold science, without the ethic, without the moral, without the spiritual side of what makes us human. Why do we want to know in the first place? It's a very spiritual longing that requires a combination of all the things that make us who we are.
And just to speak to, I think we've lost our minds.
Yeah, we've lost our amplification.
So
that's one way to get us to shut up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, just one final thing to this wonderful and patient audience is that the academic community has got to open to this spiritual dimension more than it has. It has marginalized to a large extent the history of religions and ethics and spirituality. So I think a community like this, that you are committed to modeling a new way of being in the world, but it's a profound spiritual connection. And you can be leaders in opening up that space for an ethic of care and compassion for the community of life. I really think this community can do that.
That's a great point. I'd like to bring us back to 1952 again for a minute, and then I'd like to ask you both a question about environmental awareness. The great Jewish philosopher and theologian, Abraham Joshua Heschel, wrote in his wonderful book, God in Search of Man, that indifference to the sublime wonder of living is the root cause of sin. And that was his explanation for the death of 6 million Jews. He never actually referred to the Holocaust. That was it. So I wonder if you can help me better understand what that means for our current predicament. Indifference to the sublime wonder of living is the root cause of sin. Anyone want to take that on?
Well, the sublime has been lost in materialism and the commodification of nature, as Sylvia just said. How can we sense both our smallness and our vastness in relation to the stars when we can't see them? How can we sense that our bodies came out of the explosion of supernovas, that the elements that have created life, carbon-based life, is connected to the stars are our ancestors, this kind of thing. But the sublime is what gives us our sense of drive towards anything that we do. But we've not identified, in our sense of measuring goals or measuring greening and so on. We've got to open this up to the immeasurable. These are not quantifiable elements, and we've got to create a space for that sense of wonder and awe and beauty of nature beyond measurement. That's what motivates the human.
All these sustainability educators, everyone out there, you're all educators. You're all working on your campuses to create a better way of life, to create alternatives. And you have both been educators your entire life as well. In spite of your academic and intellectual and practitioner accomplishments, you still take time as educators. Is there anything in particular that you found most successful as a way to promote environmental awareness. And I think we'd all like to hear what that is.
No child left dry.
You can take that. That's beautiful.
Great.
That's beautiful.
It's a good place
Well,
to start.
Yes, it is.
Well, I think, you know, many of you probably know Joanna Macy's Council of All Beings. You know, and years ago we did this where the beings are evaluating humans, and it was out in the woods, and students were mesmerized by this, along with music. You know, I think music is one of our great transformers, and people like Paul Winter who have played with the animals and the whales and so on. And if we're going to touch the next generation, as well as our own souls, we've got to bring music and the arts and film into this picture in a massive way, absolutely massive. But that sense that we are part of the community of life, even being judged by the animals and fish and birds. You know, if we could understand the slightest thing about migratory patterns of birds or fish or caribou or whales, we are living in the midst of such mystery.
And yeah,
Such amazing mystery, as you know, and as you have brought forward to us. So awakening people to that, any element of that, migrations alone, I think, are just astounding.
or just look at an ant and figure out how it works. Oh, for heaven's sakes, you know, all those little legs. They do things we can't do.
Yes.
And just to have that respect, or if I could just slip in the skin of a fish and feel what a fish feels, it would just be such a trip.
Such a trip. Well, I think one of the things that you've both done for us this evening is to kindle that mystery and to revitalize our own sense of wonder. And I don't feel as daunted by the challenge that you've posed for us, because I know that wonderful prospect of discovery lies there, and it's inherent in everyone. When I'm on a plane, I always want to speak to my neighbor, and I always ask them what they do, so they'll ask me what I do. And I tell them that I'm involved in environment and sustainability, and almost everyone I speak to then wants to tell me about some experience they've had. I don't know whether they want my approval or what it is, but I think it's deeper than that. Mm-hmm. They want to link up in a way that they don't have a way to do in their ordinary lives. And I think all the sustainability educators out there have a way of linking folks up to this mystery and this magic that goes beyond measurement, as you suggested. It is very late. It's almost 10, and some of us started at 7 a.m. this morning, and we have a big day ahead of us tomorrow. So what I'd like to do is read a few things back to you, what you said tonight, as a way of concluding and winding down, and thanking you both. The gifting of the earth, the great awakening. How do we serve? Wonder joins science and values. Scientists and explorers just never grow up. Mm-hmm. I enjoy seeing the world from the inside out. The planet is blue. The ocean governs the way the world works. Think about it. How did this all happen? You said this one twice. Microbes rule.
I'll say 3 times.
3 times. 1,000 variations on a theme. The ocean is alive. The planet is alive. Diving into a galaxy of little pinpoints of light. We have to make peace with the natural world. There are some pretty smart fish out there, I'm here to tell you. This is the most important time ever to be alive. Thank you so much, Sylvia Earle and Mary Evelyn Tucker.
Thank you, Sylvia. Thank you. Thank you.
What a Group hug.
Group hug.
Thank you.
Great honor.
I'll take you up on that offer.
Yes.
Us that hope that we need as we leave here, and that wonder that we will need to keep motivating us to move forward. And thank you, Mitch, for leading this discussion tonight and having this nice view into your living room after dinner. It's been an incredible day tonight, and tonight's really brought it together, I think, into a perfect conclusion. I'd like to remind all of you that tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock, the AASHE Board of Directors will be holding a members meeting with an open forum in room 201. Have a safe night on the town, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.